Thanks for making it out. Before I get started, though, I want to go through and get a couple introductions. Monica Miller with Coldwell Banker Plaza Real Estate, our current RSCK president, was introduced earlier, so thanks again for coming back up. Please join me in welcoming Monica. Jeff Mullen is the president and CEO of Ritchie Development and Ritchie Building Company here in Wichita. Ritchie Development focuses primarily on residential land development in the Wichita metro area. Probably half the room right here lives in one of your communities, so thank you for all you've done here in Wichita. But in addition to that, the company has been responsible for over $1.5 billion in development in its 40-year history. 40 years, we're right there same time, awesome. Yep. Ritchie Building Company focuses on new home construction and has built more than 1,000 new homes here in the Wichita area in the last 30 years. So welcome to Jeff. Lisa Towle graduated from Wichita State with a business marketing degree here in 2002, same year. We were alumni together. So 2002, during college, Lisa worked as an assistant for a team at Prudential Denning Beer, which later became Berkshire Hathaway PenFed Realty. After graduation, Lisa obtained her real estate license in 2003, transitioned to a full-time agent, and she's been a top 10 agent in the company for the past 5 years and has served as a mentor for many new agents. She currently serves on the SEK MLS board of directors, and Lisa loves spending time with her husband, her 2 sons, cheering on the Shockers, and supporting all things local here in Wichita. Lisa, thank you for joining us today. I like this. Okay, so don't we all feel better after hearing a little bit about our forecast? You know, we're not falling off a cliff. That was reassuring to hear that from Lawrence and backed up certainly with local data here from Dr. Longhofer. But one of the questions that we're going to start off with for our panelists, home sale activity has slowed this year. How much of this is due to softening demand and how much of this is due to lack of homes available for sale here in the market? And whoever wants to go first, we can do that. No, don't have to take any major order, but if not, Monica, do you want to maybe kick us off?
Sure.
Any volunteer? All right.
Okay. So personally, I don't feel like I've seen a big softening of demand from the consumer. I've actually had buyers with buyer fatigue that have just given up due to the lack of inventory. And talking to a lot of my colleagues, I think they would agree that if we had more homes, we would have had more home sales. And I believe both of our economists alluded to the fact that events in our lives require us to move, and you still see that today.
Great. Jeff?
Yeah, I would tell you, our business is a little bit different because it's a longer lead, right? So you've got a year before you're going to get in there. We've seen a pullback more recently. So through the middle of the summer, we were rocking and rolling and we were doing well. One of the circumstances that occurred because of how busy we were the last 2 years is we didn't build any spec houses. I mean, in any of our developments. And if you built one, somebody bought it when it was a foundation. So we haven't really been able to put any material on the ground for anybody to go look at in our neighborhoods. That's shifting. So we're shifting away from custom a little bit. We're going to have specs. And I think that'll start to drive our demand back up a little bit.
And Lisa?
Thank you to my fan club. They know how nervous I am. So I sell houses. I'm not a speaker, but bear with me here. So I think it does have to do with affordability. There is just a slight shift in what the buyers are doing in regards to pricing. So they're all adjusting their prices, I feel like, as interest rates go up. And so I think it's a little complicated right now between buyers and sellers. The sellers are still looking at past sales from the past 6 to 12 months, and they're wanting those prices, they're wanting the frenzy that we've had, and then you've got the buyers on the other hand that are listening to the doom and gloom, the news of what's happening and that the market's going to crash, and then the interest rates. I mean, buyers in the past have not had the volatility of the interest rates right now, so it's a little complicated between buyers and sellers right now, so I think that is affecting the market a little bit.
You know, you mentioned the interest rates, and mortgage rates have really doubled over the past year. So while the home prices have obviously continued to rise dramatically, how are these home buyers reacting in this decline in affordability, and how are the sellers, I'd say, responding as well?
I'll take that because I was just talking about that, but I think what I've seen the most is buyers adjusting their price range as interest rates go up. It seems like we're constantly evaluating what their price point or what their payment would be as interest rates go up. So that is a continuous evaluation, whereas the interest rate used to fluctuate maybe 1/4 or 0.5% from the time we started looking to them finding something. To have a 2% swing is crazy. So that's been a real adjustment for buyers. And I would say on the seller's side, I'm seeing more sellers being willing to pay closing costs for the buyers. That has not happened over the past year. So a lot of times buyers are using those closing costs to buy their interest rate down. So that's what I'm seeing.
Great. You know, you mentioned this one thing, Jeff, and we'll let you answer this. If you guys are willing, show of hands, how many people have maybe lost a transaction due to the increase in interest rates? Wow. Wow. That's informative. Thank you. All right, Jeff.
Yes, for us, I think it's more uncertainty again, because of the time that it takes from breaking ground on a house. A lot of our buyers, they don't want to sell their house. They want to live in their house for the next year while their house is being built. And so we went through this period where there was uncertain economic times, but from a financial perspective, it was pretty certain. I was going to sell, and I was going to get 3%. My house was going to sell for a lot. That's shifting. And if Stan has a magic ball here somewhere that he can give me that says what interest rates are going to be in a year, I would love to show it to my clients, because I think it's the uncertainty more than necessarily what's happening today. It's what's going to happen in a year. So I'm going to hold off right now because I think it's going to go back to 5, or I'm going to do it now because I think it's going to 9. And with the swings that we've had, they've been so drastic compared to most anything since 2008 that the buyers are just uncertain, and uncertainty is not a good thing for financial transactions.
Great. And Monica?
So I have first-time home buyers, and I have people that are buying $750,000 homes. I've had first-time home buyers that have decided they're going to continue to rent, and that's sad because rent's 100% interest. But when prices keep increasing and now rates have increased, they need to sit back and save some more money. My really well-established clients, some of them have just kind of shrugged their shoulders, said, I can afford the rates, and I hope it might keep some other buyers off the market or out of the market, and maybe a little less competition. So I've had those conversations where they're just like, okay, we'll put more money down. We're okay. We can afford this, and maybe this will level out the playing field, and it won't be as aggressive of a market. And then we have the in-between people, the $200,000 buyer that now has to make some decisions they may not have wanted to have to make. Maybe a little smaller house, maybe in a neighborhood close to where they wanted to be, but where they didn't really want to live before. So some adjusting there, and I'm hoping that'll be good for those neighborhoods.
Great. So right now, months of inventory, Stan, help me, right at 1 month, correct?
Just a little over.
Just a little over 1.1, somewhere right in there. Okay, so we're right about a month 1.1, 1.2, somewhere in that range. But based on the month's supply figures, it still looks like, obviously, it's a seller's market in the Wichita area. Are buyers and sellers acting this way?
So I'll go first because I really only typically see one side of the transaction, right? So most of you in a room here, you'll be the buyer and a seller for the same transaction. We normally just see the one side on the buyer side. And we don't really negotiate nearly as much as an old resale house would. So we're seeing a little bit of that. We've got some builders that are starting to do some concessions, whether it's buying down interest rates, whether it's talking about holding costs for X amount of time. But as of now, we haven't seen a dramatic shift in our business yet between the buyer and the seller based on the month's supply.
Any concession in the arena due to maybe qualification when they started the build process, and then where rates are today, and maybe there's not a qualification there, so anything in that arena?
So we've told our buyers for a long time, if you're going to go get your construction loan, figure out how to have it be a construction to perm loan. And so line that up now so you aren't worrying about that in 12 months. And a lot of the different financial institutions in town have done that. You know, we went from a house that should take 6 months to build to taking 12 months to build. And so where a rate lock should have never even been a problem, because we would have been done so far ahead of that, we started to run into instances where you know, the project was closing. I mean, we had one house in one of our communities that I think it closed with 15 or 20% of the cash in escrow, because they had to get it closed so they could get the rate lock, but they weren't done with X, Y, Z, and it wasn't because people weren't trying, it was because something was back ordered. You know, if you go try and buy a Bosch dishwasher today, it's 2 years. There for a while, when we wanted to buy windows, it was 24 months. If we wanted to buy cabinets, it was 24 months. And so we actually adjusted and had to start building houses without cutting windows in. And then we would go back in later and cut the windows in so that we could put the windows in. But that was the only way we could dry in houses to keep going.
Are you seeing that start to improve now?
Yeah, the supply chain's a lot better. So we're still past historical norms, but we're to a spot that's workable. Whereas there for 2 years, it was hardly workable.
So great, thanks, Jeff. Lisa, obviously doing a lot of resale out there right now. With these rates, or with the month's supply out there, and obviously it's still a seller's market, are buyers and sellers, are they feeling like that? What are they doing? What are they saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think it still definitely feels like a seller's market. Most pockets and areas still have, I think, multiple offers, what I'm seeing. I do feel like, as I said, the frenzy is kind of over. I think buyers, the interest rates are just kind of making them think about it a little bit more. When it's a 3% rate, it's like, well, let's just write an offer right now and do it. But I think they're sleeping on it a little bit more, just really thinking about it a little bit more intensely than they were before, and maybe not giving away everything like they were as far as inspections and appraisal gaps. I'm not seeing that personally as much as I was, but as far as houses still selling over asking price, it's still happening.
Great. You know, Sandy McCurdy, I gotta brag on her. I know she has a fan club here in Norman too. But we were talking the other day, and you know, you see stuff on TV. You see the interest rates doubling, and that sounds pretty dramatic. But then you look at Stan's numbers that are coming out through all of our collective sales through the MLS, and we're 1.1, so it is still a seller's market. And I think the message that Sandy and I were talking again is it's really our job as practitioners to communicate that out there into the marketplace, that hey, we're really returning to normal. That was Sandy's term. And so, you know, that's a little bit of what we're experiencing out there. Still 1.1, you're still a seller's market substantially. So I think that's important for us as practitioners to communicate reality out there as well. All right, so question number 4. How have rising interest rates impacted new home construction? We kind of jumped into that a second ago, but will we be able to build, and this is important, will we be able to build 1,570 new homes this next year the way that Dr. Lowenhofer projects?
So on one hand, I hope so. On the other hand, I really hope we don't. The last 2 years has burnt out so many people in our industry. The challenges have just been day after day after day. I mean, you know, you order windows, they're supposed to be there in January, you get them in May. Well, how do you explain that to a home buyer that is building their dream house and is spending, you know, several $100,000? So I think there's probably, you know, some middle ground between the 1,000 that we've been doing and the 1,500 or 1,600 that we're projecting, that the community can actually ramp up to. I mean, we just aren't set up to have a 30% increase. I don't know what industry's set up to have a 30% increase. The other thing, and the other caveat that I'll bring up is I think the 1570s single-family new home permits. And I think there's going to be a continued proliferation of the duplex communities that are being built. And so, although we may not get to 1570 single family, I think that the total that we've been building over the last couple of years is probably somewhat doable. We'll see if the duplexes come back a little bit because of investor appetite. You know, again, that's kind of fueled by 3%, but people need houses to live in. They need somewhere to live. And so, can we as a community provide that? You know, we were at 1,000. We're at 1,500 now. That was in 3 years.
Lisa, Monica, anything to add here?
I mean, I think it's just, again, the tough part of, they started building in January with an interest rate of 3%, and if they didn't do a long-term rate lock with their lender, now they're, the house is getting close to finish, and it's, more than doubled. So I think I've seen more new construction going back on the market because a custom build contract fell apart. So I think that's going to be more the norm. Some builders are still including escalation clauses, meaning as the house gets built, they can up the price. So buyers are feeling that pain of an escalation clause and then also potential interest rate increase. It's kind of scary, I think, for buyers to really go out there and get excited about doing a custom build.
Yeah. Monica, anything else?
I think they covered it, but yes, I mean, I have someone under contract right now that's buying, their $600,000 dream home, and they're talking to me on a regular basis about increased material cost and now interest rate as well, and scared that they won't be able to afford that house when it's done.
Okay. So the Mortgage Bankers Association latest forecast projects that the mortgage rates will fall to 5% by the end of next year. If they're right, how do you think this will affect the local housing market?
Go ahead.
You're back to Monica. There you go.
Okay, so, I think the higher interest rates now are slowing buyers down. They're just taking a breath and trying to figure out what's going to happen. I hope that adds a little inventory so that there's homes to show. And I think 5% feels comfortable for everyone. We've hovered around that for a while, so I think if it bumps back down to 5%, there'll be some buyers that have waited that'll jump back on the market. And again, just hope that inventory is there for them to look at.
Right. Jen?
So I think it's more about the certainty still. So for us, I think we can make just about any interest rate work as long as everybody knows what they're getting into when they get into it. And so whether that number normalizes at 5 or 6 or, hopefully not higher than that. But, if there isn't an expectation that we're going to go back to 3 and there's not an expectation that we're going to go to 9, and people kind of go, okay, I'm going to be somewhere between this 5 and 6 range, and that's kind of the band that I'm working with. I think that is, at least in our business, way more important than, specifically what that number is, because they come in with a budget and need to design a house to fit their budget. And then if you design the house that doesn't fit their budget anymore because now you're at 9, you've got a problem. So for us, I think it's more just the clarity of what we have going forward than necessarily what that rate is.
Okay. Lisa?
I think y'all are going to hear about my soapbox real quick. I'm going to hop on it, but it's we're still going to be short of inventory. So I would challenge the builders and developers to diversify the type of housing that we're offering to our clients. Rather than building an apartment complex to rent, build condos. Like the condos that we have, they're either $500,000 or they're lower end, but the basement has the laundry, the bedroom's on the second floor. Where's grandma gonna move? She can't move to that condo. So I just feel like if we built some nice apartment complexes that were meant to be condos and sold those, it would help with inventory along with the duplexes. It is very frustrating to see those continually built and built as rentals. I would rather see those split it up, divide half, and you have a $150,000 house that's brand new, perfect for a first-time home buyer or for grandma that's trying to downsize. So I think, sorry, I'm gonna hop off of it now, but I think even if we're still at 5%, I think even at 5%, we're still gonna have a big inventory shortage. We're still gonna be in the seller's market. So until we find a way, I feel bad for builders. I know they're doing everything they can, but until we correct what we're offering, we're not gonna increase.
Well, and this leads me to a final question that I have that's not on the script. So we're going to go off here a little bit. And that is, the last decade, we've been kind of backfilling in the leftover inventory in a lot of these subdivisions. You know, we've had some new subdivisions come online, and there's some dirt moving right now, which is great to see, but we've really been backfilling a lot of that leftover inventory. You go look for lots in East Wichita right now, it's kind of, there's not a lot of options out there, you know? And so, as we look at
about
that.
200 lots in East Wichita.
There you go. That is so neat to see that coming, but it's taken a decade to get there, you know? And it's taken some time to get the confidence for us to go do a new subdivision out there. So what are you guys seeing different out there? Lisa started to touch on this from the buyers and sellers and what they want from a product. What are the lifestyle features they want different? What are you guys feeling the demand has maybe changed in the housing needs and what's available out there?
I mean, I think the American dream is still a single-family house. I think that's always going to be that way. So I think that's the majority of what our buyers are still wanting. But with our price increases in Wichita, $100,000 house doesn't look as nice as it did 10 years ago. I mean, they're really run down, and it's hard and disheartening to show that to a first-time home buyer. You know, because they don't have the funds to put money into it, and they're competing against cash offers. And but I would still say overall, it's still single-family homes under 200 is probably what we need.
Right. Jeff, lifestyle features that people want different nowadays?
One of the interesting shifts we've seen, and we don't really have inexpensive houses anymore. But in our really expensive houses, we've seen a shift back to traditional basements. So people want to walk out their kitchen and they want to go in their backyard and go to the pool. You know, when we go design a neighborhood, we have to make that decision for people 15 years ahead of time. So in our next one that we've got going here pretty quick, in some of the bigger houses, we'll actually have traditional basements, which is a big shift from what we've done in Wichita. To respond to your comment, just real quick.
Sorry.
So I totally get it. You know, part of the challenge in the new home development is we've all watched home prices go up. We've watched interest rates go up. One of the biggest challenges we have right now is that the infrastructure that goes under the ground went up. And it didn't go up a little bit. It went up a lot bit. And then you add onto that the special assessment, so you've got the interest rate increase now too. And we're looking at neighborhoods where we may have specials that are 1.5 or 2 times what we've ever seen before. So how do we figure out, how do we work as a development community, as a city, to actually go put product like that on the ground? Because if you've got specials that are $250, $300 on a 1,500 square foot house, that's hard. So that's one of our bigger challenges right now is we've got one that's shovel ready, and it has been since April, and we keep getting estimates on what those specials are going to be like, and I just don't know how we sell it. So, you know, we got hit with this weird raising prices, raising costs, raising interest rate. Everything's going the same direction, and it should go the opposite direction. So, you know, we've got to look at, okay, so, you know, can I actually put a house on the ground that's $200,000, which I'm not totally sure we can do that anymore. But you still got all the infrastructure costs that comes along with that. And so that's one of our bigger challenges as a developer. So.
Great. Monica, anything to add? What buyers or sellers are looking for different in the market?
I think something I've seen over the last couple of years is multiple generations living in the same household. I have a lot of clients that want to make sure when they build their new house that it has a mother-in-law suite. When mom's ready to move in with them, it's there. Or they expect their kids to return multiple times, and they want to make sure they can live in the basement and not disrupt the life that's happening on the main floor. So a lot more of that. I don't know if that's from the pandemic or if that's something to stay, but I've seen a lot more concern with that.
Excellent. Well, it looks like we're at time, so let's give our panel